As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the dense forest, the group of hikers found themselves in the heart of adventure. Each member brought a unique spirit and story, united by the desire to explore the untamed wilderness that lay before them. John, the seasoned outdoorsman, led the way with unwavering confidence. His rugged appearance, weathered by countless journeys into the wild, matched his reputation as the group's unofficial guide. Emily, the nature enthusiast, marveled at the intricate tapestry of leaves, roots, and branches that surrounded them. Her excitement was palpable, infectious to the others. Behind them walked Mark, a tech-savvy urbanite yearning for a break from screens and schedules. The forest offered a digital detox that seemed both liberating and terrifying. Sarah, the fitness enthusiast, powered forward with relentless determination, her athletic prowess shining through every step. As night settled in, they stumbled upon an intriguing find: the remote forest cabin. Its timbered exterior, worn but sturdy, stood in stark contrast to the ancient trees that loomed around it. A welcoming light flickered through the windows as if beckoning them to take refuge within. Their weariness, accentuated by the creeping darkness, left them with no choice but to enter the cabin. Their flashlights pierced the shadows, revealing a surprisingly well-stocked interior. Candles, canned food, and blankets hinted at the cabin's mysterious caretaker. And then, like a malevolent whisper, the storm descended upon them, as if conspiring with the forest itself. Rain lashed against the cabin's windows, and the wind howled through the trees. The decision to stay was sealed by the tempest's fury, and they settled in, thankful for the shelter they had found. Little did they know that their adventure was only beginning, and that the cabin held secrets far more chilling than the storm outside. The torrential rain beat against the cabin's wooden walls like a relentless drum. As the hikers gathered inside, drenched and shivering, the cabin offered a glimmer of hope amidst the tempest. Lanterns flickered to life, their warm glow revealing the cabin's rustic interior. The air was thick with the scent of old wood, a comforting aroma that contrasted with the storm raging outside. They hurriedly removed their soaked hiking gear, the group's camaraderie evident as they helped each other. Sarah, the determined leader of the group, took charge. She found an old fireplace stocked with dry firewood, a lucky find that promised warmth and solace. The cabin's hearth crackled to life, casting dancing shadows across the room. The flames danced with the same energy that had brought the hikers here. Their nervous laughter filled the cabin as they huddled close, their faces reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and relief. In the dim light, they explored their newfound sanctuary. A worn but sturdy wooden table sat in the center of the room, surrounded by mismatched chairs that seemed to have witnessed countless conversations. An old bookshelf, filled with dusty volumes, lined one wall, a silent testament to the cabin's history. As the storm raged on outside, the hikers gathered around the table, sharing their tales of adventure and misadventure. The cabin's walls seemed to absorb their stories, as if the very wood had a memory of its own. Despite the eerie atmosphere, a sense of unity and safety began to settle among the group. It was as if the cabin, for all its enigmatic qualities, had welcomed them as weary travelers in need of respite. Little did they know that the cabin held secrets far older and darker than any storm, secrets that would soon emerge from the shadows to challenge their newfound sense of security. As the night wore on, the cabin's eerie atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The hikers huddled together, their breaths visible in the cold air, as strange sounds emanated from within the cabin's very walls. The logs crackled in the fireplace, casting shifting shadows that danced ominously. Amelia, the inquisitive member of the group, couldn't resist the temptation to investigate. She retrieved a dusty old journal that had been sitting on a weathered wooden shelf. Its pages were filled with faded ink and cryptic entries that hinted at a history intertwined with the cabin itself. As she began to decipher the journal's contents, the words painted a chilling picture. Tales of a family that had once sought refuge here, only to meet a gruesome fate at the hands of an unknown malevolence. Their desperate pleas for help echoed through the yellowed pages, mirroring the fear now coursing through the hikers. Outside, the wind howled in fury, and the forest seemed to conspire with the cabin, its ancient trees casting long, distorted shadows against the windows. Eerie whispers carried on the air, and ghostly apparitions appeared and vanished in the corners of their vision. The group gathered around Amelia, their faces etched with a mixture of fascination and dread. The journal told of inexplicable phenomena, the same phenomena they were now experiencing. It described a sinister force that lingered in the cabin, a force that refused to let go of those who sought refuge here. As the night deepened and the paranormal activity escalated, they realized that they were not alone in the cabin. Unseen entities brushed against their skin, whispered in their ears, and tugged at their sanity. Each page Amelia turned revealed more about the horrors that had unfolded within these walls, and the group's fear and uncertainty grew with each revelation. The cabin's wooden beams creaked and groaned as if bearing witness to the horrors of the past. It became clear that their refuge had become a prison, and the malevolent force that dwelled here sought something from them, something they couldn't yet comprehend. With a collective shudder, they huddled closer together, haunted by the knowledge that the cabin held secrets darker than they could have ever imagined. The night stretched on, and the hikers were left to wonder if they would make it out of this remote forest cabin with their lives and their sanity intact. The tension in the cabin was palpable, a thick cloud of unease that hung heavy in the dimly lit room. Sarah, Mark, Emily, and Ben had been friends for years, but the relentless supernatural occurrences in the cabin were taking their toll on their camaraderie. As the wind howled outside, the group huddled together near the flickering fireplace, their faces etched with worry and fear. Sarah, once the voice of reason, now found herself at the center of a growing rift. Mark's voice quivered as he spoke. "We can't stay here. We have to get out, no matter how bad the storm is." Emily, her eyes wide with fear, added, "I don't care if we have to hike through a hurricane. I'd rather take my chances out there than in this cursed cabin." Sarah, however, clung to a flicker of hope. "Wait, we don't know for sure if leaving is the answer. What if there's a way to communicate with whatever is here? Maybe we can find out what it wants." Ben, his patience wearing thin, shook his head. "Sarah, this isn't some Scooby-Doo mystery. It's dangerous, and I won't stick around to find out what it wants." The debate grew heated, accusations and suspicions flying like sparks in the confined space. Sarah desperately tried to maintain order, but the fractures in their trust deepened with every passing moment. As their argument raged on, a loud crash echoed from another room, drowning out their voices. Startled, they fell silent, their eyes locking in mutual terror. It was clear that whatever haunted the cabin wasn't content to stay hidden any longer. Their trust, already fragile, teetered on the edge of collapse. The sinister presence in the cabin continued to toy with them, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal its malevolent intentions. With every passing second, the group's unity crumbled further, and their battle for survival grew more perilous. The cabin's dark history and the malevolent entity that dwelled within it threatened to tear their friendship apart and push them to the brink of terror.
As Jenna's trembling fingers turned the pages of the old journal, she felt a chill that transcended the physical coldness of the cabin. The hikers gathered around, their faces etched with curiosity and trepidation. The journal's tattered pages revealed a tale of tragedy that had unfolded in the very cabin they now occupied. The faded ink told of a family that had once sought solace in this forest retreat, just like the hikers had. The family's name was the Andersons, and their story was one of hope and heartbreak. The cabin had been their refuge from the world, a place where they laughed, loved, and found respite from life's troubles. Yet, as Jenna read on, the tone of the journal entries shifted. The once happy scribbles gave way to frantic, erratic handwriting. It was evident that something had gone terribly wrong. The entries spoke of strange sounds in the night, eerie whispers, and a pervasive feeling of dread that had enveloped the family. A faded photograph slipped from the pages, a haunting image of the Andersons, their smiles contorted into expressions of terror. The hikers couldn't tear their eyes away from the photograph. It seemed as though the family's anguish had been frozen in time. As Jenna continued to read, she came across an entry that sent shivers down her spine. It spoke of a malevolent presence, of shadows that moved independently, and of a relentless torment that had driven the family to the brink of madness. The Andersons had tried to leave the cabin, but it was as though an unseen force held them captive. The journal concluded with a desperate plea for help and a plea for forgiveness. It was signed by each family member, their signatures trembling with fear. The hikers exchanged uneasy glances. They now knew that they were not alone in the cabin. The restless spirits of the Anderson family lingered, trapped by a malevolent force that demanded retribution. The haunting past of the cabin had come alive, and the hikers were entangled in a sinister web of history and the supernatural. The air in the cabin grew heavier, as if the spirits themselves were watching and waiting. The hikers knew they had to uncover the truth behind the Andersons' torment and find a way to free them from their restless existence. But with each passing moment, the malevolent entity that held the cabin in its grip seemed to grow stronger, and their own fear deepened. As the hikers contemplated their next move, the cabin seemed to creak and groan around As the night wore on, the cabin's malevolence grew bolder. Objects levitated in the air, candles flickered wildly, and a bone-chilling wind whistled through the cracks in the walls. The hikers huddled together, their breath visible in the frigid air. Fear clung to them like a second skin, but they knew they had to confront the supernatural forces that held them captive. Emma, her face pale, stepped forward, clutching an old Ouija board she had discovered among the cabin's forgotten relics. With trembling hands, she placed it on the creaky wooden table. "We need answers," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The plan was clear: to communicate with the spirits and uncover the truth behind the cabin's haunting. As they placed their fingertips on the planchette, their heartbeats quickened. The board seemed to come alive beneath their touch, spelling out cryptic messages. RELEASEUS. "Release us," Sarah muttered, her eyes wide with realization. The spirits were trapped, just as they were. The cabin's eerie whispers grew louder, echoing through the room. Shadows danced menacingly on the walls. Suddenly, a spectral figure materialized, standing in the corner of the room. It was the spirit of the cabin's former owner, Mr. Thornton, a tragic figure from the past. With a mournful gaze, he revealed the cabin's dark secret. "I was unjustly accused of a crime I did not commit," he intoned. "I died seeking revenge, and now my spirit is trapped here, seeking redemption." The hikers exchanged glances, understanding the malevolent entity's plight. They were the key to breaking the curse, to setting the spirits free. With newfound determination, they pledged to help Mr. Thornton and the other restless souls find peace. But the malevolent entity was not so easily appeased. It unleashed a final, terrifying assault on the group, shaking the cabin to its core. As the hikers held hands and chanted words of protection, a blinding light enveloped the room, banishing the malevolent presence. The cabin grew still, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The hikers had succeeded in their fight for survival. The malevolent entity was gone, and in its place, a profound sense of peace settled over the cabin. Exhausted but triumphant, the group ventured outside, greeted by the first light of dawn. The storm had passed, and the forest was calm once more. They had survived the nightmarish ordeal and had helped the spirits find redemption. With a final, grateful look back at the cabin, they made their way back into the forest, forever changed by their extraordinary encounter with the supernatural. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the tattered curtains, the storm outside had finally abated. The violent winds and relentless rain had given way to a calm, eerie stillness. The cabin, once a haven from the tempest, seemed strangely quieter now, as if it held its breath. The hikers, exhausted and worn, gathered near the cabin's door, their faces etched with a mix of relief and apprehension. It was time to leave behind the haunting memories that clung to these wooden walls. As they prepared to depart, a sense of cautious optimism filled the air. With trembling hands, they turned the rusty doorknob, and the door creaked open slowly. The forest outside greeted them with a serene beauty that was in stark contrast to the horrors they had faced within the cabin's confines. The sun had begun its ascent, casting a warm, golden glow that danced on the dew-kissed leaves. One by one, they stepped out into the clearing. The forest was awakening, the bird song replacing the haunting whispers that had plagued their nights. The ground beneath their feet felt solid, reassuring. It was as if the nightmare had lifted with the storm. As they moved further away from the cabin, each step carried them closer to the safety of civilization. The heavy burden of their shared experience began to lift, and they found solace in the presence of one another. Their bonds had been tested, and though strained, they remained unbroken. Behind them, the cabin stood in quiet contemplation, its secrets buried once more in the depths of the forest. It was a place they would never forget, a chapter of their lives that would forever haunt their memories. Yet, as they ventured deeper into the woods, a feeling of renewal washed over them. They had faced the unknown, conquered their fears, and emerged stronger for it. The eerie forest cabin, with all its mysteries and malevolence, had been left behind. The hikers carried with them a story of survival, unity, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The forest stretched out before them, inviting them to explore its beauty, its secrets, and its endless possibilities. The nightmare was over, but the adventure continued as they ventured further into the unknown, forever changed by their encounter with the eerie forest cabin. The night was quiet now, the echoes of their harrowing ordeal still lingering in the air. The group sat in a circle around the dwindling campfire, its feeble flames casting flickering shadows on their faces. They had come through the storm, both literal and supernatural, and now they found themselves in a moment of reflection. Sarah, the hiker with the passion for history, spoke first. Her voice was steady, her eyes focused on the dancing flames. We've seen things most people wouldn't believe. We've faced our deepest fears both from within and beyond, but we've also discovered something profound. The others turned their attention to her, their faces marked by the experiences they had shared. Mark, the skeptic-turned-believer, nodded in agreement. She's right. This cabin, as haunted as it may be, offered us a chance at redemption. It forced us to confront our own demons, to face our darkest selves. Emma, who had once been at odds with the group, now spoke with a newfound sense of unity. We came here as individuals, but we leave as a team. We've learned that trust and support are our greatest assets, even in the face of the unknown. As they exchanged stories of their journey and the personal transformations they had undergone, the forest around them seemed to listen. The trees whispered ancient secrets, and the wind carried their words away. But there was one secret that remained unspoken, the true nature of the cabin's malevolent entity, its restless history, and the unresolved mysteries that still clung to it. They had chosen to leave it behind, to let those secrets be buried with the cabin. As dawn approached, the group rose from their makeshift campfire circle. Their expressions were a mix of gratitude, sadness, and determination. They had survived the cabin's haunting, but they had also found something unexpected, a deeper understanding of themselves and the strength that comes from unity. With one last glance at the forest that had held them captive, they turned and walked away, ready to face whatever new adventures the world had in store for them. The eerie forest cabin would forever remain a part of their shared history, a testament to the bonds they had forged and the redemption they had discovered within its haunted walls.